Hi everyone, this is Jenny with Paper Cardinal. I'm going to share a card that I did for the Crafters Workshop today. I have decided to use this stencil that's one of my favorites from the last release. It's got a heart on it and I had planned to use it for Valentine's, but then life happened. So, hearts are great all year round. So what I wanted to do, I had in mind, was to mask off the heart so that I could use this, some of the platinum molding paste after I inked it. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of go through the inks that I picked, which are kind of like my go-to favorite colors. And I made this handy little ink swatch book with all my distress inks and distress oxide inks. And it's fun to pull out and kind of like look through the inks and see what they look like together. And it does kind of bring up some fun combinations that are different. There have been a lot of interesting ink blending videos lately because Christina Warner had done a sort of ink blending series where she blended a lot of different colors together and then showed them afterwards making different cards with them. So anyway, one of the colors I'd picked out was the Wilted Violet, which was very dark, and I kind of felt like it was a little bit too bright, so I wanted to see what this Dusty Concord would look like with it. So that's what I decided to go with after looking through my little color swatch book. I'm going to use these stencil brushes to blend the ink with, and I've got a mix of Ken Oliver and some of the Nuvo Tonic stencil brushes, and they're both about the same quality. They both work great, and I like it because it's easier to blend. I'm not a super expert to blend with, and especially on an intricate stencil like this, it doesn't tend to pull up any corners like it would if you use too much pressure with a blending foam applicator. So anyway, I'm going to tape the stencil onto the back of a piece of cardstock there. I believe it's just the 110-pound Neenah cardstock, and this is the masking fluid I'm going to use. It's by Nuvo. I have not used it yet. I have used some other masking fluids before, and like a rubber cement one too, but I thought I'd give this a shot. It's about the same size, the bottle's the same size as like a glitter accent drops, and the consistency is really nice. It's not too thick and gloppy, but it's also not runny, so I just squeezed a little bit there onto my the side mat of my glass media mat. Sorry about the glare from that there. I'm still working that out. And I'm going to brush it on with just a cheap brush I got in a big packet of, kind of garbagey brushes to use for kids' crafts and stuff like that from Michael's, which is perfect for this because I don't want to use that for paint, obviously. Oh, and this is my little fun, it's an old gelato container that I used, and I thought it would be great to keep down here because it's a really heavy duty plastic, and then it's got a screw on lid, and I am really bad at keeping things around that have water in them and then eventually spilling them. So this is great for me because I can screw the top on it and not worry about having to spill it later. So that's just my little tip. So I'm going to decide whether or not I couldn't decide whether to let this air dry or to use my heat tool. I do a little bit of both, and then I am going to heat it up a little bit and then wait for it to dry a little bit too. And then I'll start my blending. So while I'm waiting for that to dry a little bit, or I might be trying to get my heat tool. I decided to make this card because I bought this really cool stamp set. I wanted to use the stencil, obviously, too. But I also wanted to use the stamp set from Hero Arts that you'll see. It's called the Support Prayers Love stamp set. And it's got some gorgeous little images of like heart with a sort of world map and some other little prayers and a dove and things like that. So those are the stamps I'm going to use for my sentiment. Okay, so here I am after the heart dried. I'm going to just use those blending brushes to kind of blend that in from, you know, sort of rainbow colors, green, blue, purple, and then the pink at the bottom. And I wanted to be able to, I probably could have gone around the heart, but I wanted to be able to really go right up against it with the color and not have to worry about getting that. So that's why I decided to use that masking fluid. And I don't have, I just have a brush sort of for every kind of family of colors. I don't have one for every single color or anything like that. So I just use the ones I have, and then I kind of just brush off as much as I can color from the side, and then I'll use them next time. I'm sure you can wash them out with, you know, soap and water. I haven't done that yet. So, all right, now I'm just going to make sure that most of the ink is kind of dried up, and clean off my stencil here. And then I'm going to pull off the tape here and get the masking fluid off. There might be an easier way to do this. I wanted to make sure it's really good and dry first. Other ways I've done it before are just to either peel it up with my finger, or to maybe use like a rubber eraser, which I don't have one. So I'd use a combination of my fingers and just a plain white eraser, and it worked fine. It did take a little while to get off, but it didn't damage the paper or anything. And you know, even if it did, obviously I was going to use the paste over it, so it would have been okay. But it did take some doing to get off of. I might need to do some research and see what a better way to get that off might be, because I'd really like to use that again for watercolor or something. I thought about doing like some clouds or a sky or something where I can mask that off to make it nice and bright white and then paint around it. So, all right, once I get that all cleaned up, I am going to just clean up my little eraser pieces right here, and then I'm going to mask off the ink part and do the modeling paste. So I laid the stencil back over it, and I didn't want to put any masking tape on top of the stenciled area already and risk kind of pulling up any of the color. So I used some sticky notes, which turned out to not be very sticky. I need to get some of those sticky notes that have sticky all the way around them. I've seen Laura Basson use them, but I don't have any of those. So these ones clearly were not very good, but I used them around it and then just taped on top of it to make sure that I got all of the edges covered, but without putting any tape onto the oxide ink blended part. So once I get that down, I'm going to use just a palette knife, and the paste I'm going to use is the Platinum Silver modeling paste from Crafter's Workshop, and it's probably my favorite silver. I'm really kind of addicted to the gold, and my favorite gold is the champagne gold, which is the lightest gold, and this is the lightest silver, which is the platinum. There's a sterling silver, I believe, and it's a little bit darker than this one, so I like the light one of this. And I thought the silver color would be better because these are more cool tones of ink that I used. So that's the paste here, and I'm going to just use my palette knife, like I said, and spread a, kind of a medium thick layer on it. I want it to be thick enough to give it some texture, but not too thick to make it take too long to dry. So then I'm going to peel up all of my masking and get to work on the sentiment. And like I said, this is the stamp set I'm going to use. I think I saw it at Creativation. It's really got some great sentiments on it, like Rain or Shine, I Am With You, and There For You, kind of just different sending you support or sending you prayers. But the one I'm going to use is the You Are In My Heart. And after I pulled off the masking here, I got a little bit outside of the lines, and I was trying to clean it up, and then I kind of ended up smearing that right side. and just kept filling with it and kept making it worse and worse until I finally just made myself stop. Which is fine, because actually that is where I was planning on overlaying the sentiment. So that worked out. I had to make it a little bit, I spread it out a little bit more than I probably would have. I maybe would have done one strip, but anyway, that's what stickers and embellishments are for, to cover up your mistakes. So I am going to use the stamps to stamp my sentiment and heat emboss it in white. I'm going to stamp it on black cardstock. I use just VersaMark ink and the fine detail white embossing powder from Ranger. And I end up fiddling with this quite a bit, because when I first stamped it, I ended up trimming it, and I literally do this every single time. And I did plenty of room. I left myself plenty of room on both sides. But then after I heat set it, I started to cut it off, and I cut it off too small. I cut off, in little bitty strips, and I really should have done longer strips, because I decided I wanted to do sort of fishtail kind of banner edges on the one end, and I didn't leave myself any room for that. And I ended up deciding to use a different heart, so I'm going to go back and restamp all those in just a minute. I have kind of learned my lesson to try and do everything more than once the first time, because I inevitably do something like this, or a lot of times with heat embossing, it doesn't, you don't get a great impression at first, or if you don't prep it right, there might be some other static and things. So I like the way that one little fishtail ended up, so that's where I'm going to go back and redo it. And that was the original paper I was going to use as a background paper, and I changed my mind too. So, all right, so now I'm going to restamp. And I don't know if I prepped it here with my embossing powder tool yet. That's what I'm going to do there. And then I'm going to restamp that and make it a lot longer so I can cut these little banners in. And then I'll stack it up on the right side there. The cardstock I had planned to use for the matte piece is a piece of, it's like a it's a satin mirrored cardstock, or just, yeah, I think that's what it's called, satin mirror cardstock. It's from Tonic. It's the Craft Perfect. And I'm not sure what the color is called, but it's I'll have all the links in the description below, but it is it's like a turquoise color, and I actually ended up kind of messing up and cut it the wrong size, but I really it was really too bright anyway, and I think it kind of distracted and took away from the heart, which I wanted it to be, part of. So I ended up using a different cardstock completely. And I like the way it turned out better than I would have if I hadn't done that. So, okay, so now I'm going to take my time, make sure I get long enough pieces here. I don't know why I'm using those extremely long scissors, except that they work really well. And once those are finished and I get the size the way I want to, I'm going to put them on some dimensional adhesive and pop them up a little bit. I don't have any, but I really wish I had some of the black dimensional adhesive, because this is the perfect scenario for you to be able to use it and not see it on the side. I think we often forget, when you're not looking at something straight down, that, it would help if you could have something on the side that didn't, it didn't show up, or that was more even. I could have used foam, but I think those black adhesive would have been better. So this is where I decided to go and restamp the heart part 2 because I like the way the banner looked in it, and I didn't do it before. I'm not sure why. I think I maybe thought I would make it stand out in a different way. I actually thought about doing it in maybe a silver or something a little bit different, but at any rate, I restamp it again and cut the fishtail into it, and then I'm going to pop those up. I'm going to finish off the card by putting it onto the base that I picked, the cardstock I picked. It's kind of a wine color, and I think it looks good sort of with the blended part of the purple and pink together. And then I'm going to, because the card ended up being cut smaller and I used a 5x7 card base, I use a little piece of the silver satin cardstock at the bottom, which I think looks really good with the silver heart. So I'm really pleased in the end the way it all kind of came together. Sometimes that actually does work out. So that's the silver there at the bottom, and it matches the color absolutely perfect of the heart. So once I get that set up, and I'm going to adhere all of that down to the card base, I've got a piece of foam there that I'm going to pop up just all of that. Once it's all matted together, I'm going to pop all of that up on that little piece of, it's just a real thin fun foam, and I think it looks, it just gives it a teeny tiny little bit of dimension, and then it's nice because it's when it's all a piece, and it's pretty squishy, so it could, still go through the mail without too much trouble. I then had picked out a pile of the Nuvo drops and some of the new Nuvo drops to the Dream Drops to add all over the back of the front of the card. I'm using some deluxe adhesive here to glue that foam piece onto the back. And then I'm going to flip it over and start to embellish with some of the Nuvo drops. I kind of kept them in the same color family as they blend across the page or across the card. And I started sort of in the left corner and kind of worked my way kind of in a diagonal towards the right corner, choosing some different colors that would match. The two there on the left that are kind of like a triangular shaped bottle are the new Dream Drops that are amazing. They're iridescent. They look great on different colored cardstock, like a dark colored cardstock. They show up really well. That one is called Dragon Scales, and I think the other one is called Fairy Wings, I believe. And then I've got a couple little samples of some other ones, and Periwinkle, I believe, is the other color. So you see how many of those pieces I actually restamped over and over again. All right, so I'm going to pop those up, pop them on, add the Nuvo drops, and then that's going to be it. So you can see when I get finished here, you'll be able to see the close-ups and the final card at the end. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to check out the list of supplies listed below, and check out more at the craftersworkshop.com/blog. I think that's right. And I plan to be back with another video, hopefully Thursday. So we will see you next time. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up or leave a comment, and hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.